I think also, Christina, that many of the viewers, many of the listeners on the Choose to Think podcast will, like I said earlier, will remember 9/11. My own children will remember that day. But my grandchildren, not so much. They're going to be reading about that and experiencing that in a different way. And I wondered, as we're wrapping up, what do you want people who don't have any kind of memory or recollection of that event, or maybe weren't born at that moment, like my grandchildren, what do you want them to know about that experience?
I as a tour guide, I tour a lot of students from around the country, like high schoolers. And it's been clear to me that a lot of them were not taught a lot about 9/11 in school. And I've done some studying up about what they are taught in school. And I understand that a lot of the history classes are, when it comes to 9/11, it's left up to the teacher of what she or he wants to impart to the students. And certainly there are the important things to know, that we lost our innocence as a country. It started the age of terrorism. A lot of things that they are now used to, like going through airport securities or school securities, or all kind of things, are a direct relationship to 9/11. And those are good things to know, that it's still, to this day, 20 years later, it is the worst act of terrorism in world history. It's not just an American soil type one, or it hasn't been usurped, in the year since. It's still considered the worst act of terrorism in world history. So historically, in a lot of ways, it's just good to know. It's history. It's something that deeply affected the psyche of the United States in every single way. But then, and then there's things to know about the attacks themselves that, again, are good to know. Just how there were so many heroes that came out of the background, not just the rescue workers who died in the attacks, or who died trying to save people, but just normal civilians just really rose to the occasion and just were there for each other, even to the end. Strangers who died together because they didn't want to leave each other, in the buildings. And there's so many wonderful, heartwarming stories about heroes. And the 9/11 boat evacuation is just a beautiful story, that of man helping man, that is just, it's important to know. But I think spiritually, I just some concepts to know. It's just that we live in a broken world. And I remember thinking after 9/11, like, I'd heard about evil. I'd seen some evil, growing up, but nothing along that level. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I want to live in a world that has that amount of evil, that gets that bad. I'm not even sure I'm interested in living in a world like that. And that was a huge thing for me, to have felt that kind of, brokenness and evil manifested in this world that we're living in. But it's a reminder to the younger generation that it's real. It is absolutely real. And even though I really hope that there's not 11 in their lifetime, there probably will be. But even if there's not, the Bible says we're going to suffer. It's just going to happen. And we all have to be prepared. And what I always say to the younger generation is, whenever you suffer, whether it's from God, forbid, a 9/11, or just suffering that we all undergo, that they don't face that without Jesus. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And because it can get ugly, and we're all going to see it, every single one of us. So that is just something to, if I could impart that, and I've tried,
right,
that when push comes to shove, it's gonna fall, and it's gonna fall badly, and it's going to shake you to your core. And you gotta, what is your core?
Right.
Your core, like what my core was, which is everything I want to be is simply up to me, because that's a real shaky core that didn't get me very far, right? So what's your idol? Like Tim Keller talks a lot about idols.
Yes.
Like, what's your idol? that's when you're shaken to your core, are you going to have that to stand on? Because I tell you, it's a lonely place if
Yeah.
if it's not built around Jesus.
Right. And the only maybe good thing about it is that it does certainly provide us an opportunity to think about those things that you've mentioned and to begin questioning those. And that's a way that we see God's goodness and his, what we think and what truly is suffering. That experience, that personal tragedy and trauma often can be the very avenue that leads us to the truth, and God is there waiting. So it's kind of a so bittersweet as we look at it that way.